Hi, I'm Mr. Simons, and in this video we're going to answer the question, what is inflation? In terms of inflation, when we're talking about it, we're going to look at these two particular things. What is inflation? And then what is the Consumer Price Index, or CPI? So if we're talking about inflation, at its most basic level, what it is a sustained increase in the general level of prices. So this is important in terms of wording, this idea of a sustained increase. So it's not a one-off, instead there is some kind of trend or ongoing increase in prices, and that it's measured by a price index. In Australia, the most widely used measure in terms of inflation is what's known as the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. So the other situation is that prices are not steadily increasing, instead they're falling. If we have this situation, we call it deflation. And that's a true fact. So now let's look at this idea of the CPI. Now, as we know from the previous slide, the CPI refers to, it's the Consumer Price Index. So the simplest way to think about the CPI is it's like a big basket of household goods. What happens is that the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, tracks a whole basket of different goods that households buy, and it looks at their different prices. And each of those goods are weighted according to their importance. So the more a household uses it, the more importance that price movement has in the CPI. So if we think about it as a basket of goods, the type of things that could go into the basket could include the following things. So if we look at a typical basket, which this obviously looks like, things like housing, food, clothing, transport, travel, banking costs, financial services, all of those things would go into the CPI. They would be weighted, and then we'd work out the general movement in prices in an economy. So if we look at this idea of the weightings, here is an example from the Reserve Bank of Australia in terms of looking at how things are weighted in the CPI. Now this is from 2017, so depending on when you're watching it, it could be wildly out of date, but you'll get the idea. What I'd like you to do is focus on this column here. So you can see here that this is the weighting, so the importance of each of these expenditure items in the CPI. So we can see that the biggest, most important expenditure item is housing. Housing has a weighting of 22.7% in the CPI. And you can see then that it goes down in its importance. So the next most important thing, food and non-alcoholic beverages, recreation and culture, transport, household stuff, alcohol and tobacco, insurance, financial health, education, blah, blah, blah. As some people said, check it out, alcohol and tobacco is weighted more heavily than education. Not sure what this says about our society. But either way, you get the idea that we are tracking the prices of all of these goods, and then we are weighting them based on their importance to a household.